Greetings, kindred. Wishing you all a happy new galactic year as we enter into this Lionsgate portal. So the Lionsgate portal is fully open on the 8th of August. It's known as the 8-8. I don't know what time it actually fully opens, but it did start to open at the last new moon in July and will be fully open on the 8th of August. So in traditional astrology, the Lionsgate portal, it's said that the sun is in Leo when that takes place. Well, astronomically, it actually doesn't, because when the Lionsgate portal fully opens on the 8-8, the sun is actually at 17 degrees in Cancer. Now, this makes perfect sense to me. I mean, overall, the sun spends 2.5 days in Cancer because the portal's fully open for 5 days. So it spends 2.5 days in the sign of Cancer and then 2.5 days in the sign of Leo. And that's all about balancing the masculine and the feminine, because the sun represents the masculine, Leo. Sun represents the feminine, the moon, Cancer. So, the Lionsgate is all about the higher chakras and connecting to like the universal consciousness. Do you know what I mean? And Leo's that sign of pride and ego, but he's also very loving and loyal. So what happens for the 2.5 days that the sun is in Cancer, in his last degrees of Cancer, is that he's nurturing, putting in all the nurture, or I should say she, because it's ruled by the moon. And the sun is both masculine and feminine in a way, because the sun itself is a masculine, but the rays that come off the sun are feminine. So, the sun holds both energies. He's masculine, but he radiates the feminine. Whereas the moon was once a masculine planet, but, in his destruction came all this spiritual kind of knowledge, I guess, as we do, because this is all connected to the Kundalini as well. It comes a lot of wisdom. When you've got nothing left to lose, that's normally when you come into your wisdom. So the moon's been through that process. Like, the moon is actually a dead planet, but obviously, she still has a conscience. That's why she rules the unconscious mind, while the sun rules the conscious mind. So the sun, for those 2.5 days, like I said, she's given us all the wisdom and the nurture. But also, the 8-8 is all about the white lion. Now, your everyday lion's normally like a golden colour. So the white lion, I mean, if you've ever read the books of Narnia or seen the film Narnia, the white lion appears in that film. So, this is like, it's rare. And, the Lionsgate portal, I think in Cometon, we've got a few years before that actually the true Lions portal takes place. So all these Lionsgate portals that were building up to that event, I can't remember what date I was given, but all the Lionsgate portals leading up to date, that's going to be the major portal. So I'll have to do a little bit more research into that, actually, because I found that quite interesting, because I know Venus is very much connected to that particular Lionsgate portal. What a lot of people don't know as well is the moon is, I think, the only sign in the zodiac that has more than one symbol. So traditionally, the crab is the symbol of Cancer. So the crab does represent wisdom and resilience, adaptability, growth, and resourcefulness. So, the crab as a symbol itself is pretty spiritual, it's pretty nurturing. But apart from the crab, the scarab and the turtle are also symbols for the sign of Cancer. Now, the turtle is all about wisdom, patience, and strength as well. And the scarab is all about rebirth, resurrection, transformation, and manifestation. So all these three symbols are very relevant and would be very good to use in whatever practices you do throughout this Lionsgate portal. But I feel there's symbols that are going to be very relevant up until the 11th of August, when the sun actually does move into Leo. But also, you know, what the Lionsgate portal represents as well is as the Lionsgate is fully open, it will start activating our higher chakras. Now, I've gone to a website actually and brought up, so as I'm talking about this, you'll kind of get what I'm saying. You can see it visually. Just bear with me. So this is an image from allcrystal.com. That's actually a good website if you want to know all about crystals, colours and stuff like that. You know, so I do recommend this website if you're really into crystals and you want to know more about them. So, like, this is all the chakra points. I mean, here is the crown chakra. So they're the 7 main chakras that people more or less know about. But above the head, we have the soul star. Now, this is the higher self. So when we're having a Kundalini, the Kundalini starts from the root and works its way up through the crown chakra to the soul star. Now, this is where the masculine and the feminine meet. And this is where balance is needed. So we're in this chakra for a little while. And it's very common, actually. And I was so glad when, you know, another reader, she actually spoke about in one of her videos about how the Kundalini can get stuck in the sacral chakra. And I was actually mind blown because, like, when I remembered back to my Kundalini experience, I remember a year before, like, a rumbling going on in my root and sacral chakra. It was pretty overwhelming at the time, but it, you know, it kind of stopped short. And it wasn't until about a year later that the full Kundalini took place. And I actually felt it go right through me up into the, and shoot out my crown chakra into the soul star. Now, at the time that happened, I didn't have a clue what it was. I didn't really know much about the chakra system. I'd never heard of Kundalini in my life before. But, you know, I went through this experience and I've been researching it kind of ever since. So, you know, the higher chakras, the soul star, the spirit chakra, the universal chakra, the galactic chakra, and then the divine gateway. Now, I'm going to explain all these a little bit. So the soul star is the higher self. This is where the root, the soul, comes to meet the higher self and comes into union. This is the twin flame energy within. This is the balancing of the masculine and the feminine. This is where we would have already gone through the dark night of the soul, maybe, or we're about to enter the dark night of the soul. Now, anyone who works with healing or, you know, any readers out there, normally people that do kind of more shamanic spiritual practices or anything like that. I mean, the spirit star chakra is the ether. This is where the ether is. This is where we connect to the spirit realms. This is where we get our psychic information from. It feeds through down into our crown chakra, and we either see or we hear or we feel. Do you know what I mean? So either we're psychic visually, which is called clairvoyance, or we're clairaudient, or we're clairsentient. I would say that most readers are all three. Most psychic readers or mediums out there are all three, clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient. I find myself, it's like all three kick in. I hear more than I see, but, you always get that gut feeling, and that is our instinct center. This is where we feel all our instincts. So, this is where we get all our, I guess you could call it the Akashic record. And then we have the universal chakra. Now, this is the link between our own chakras and the galactic chakra, which is like really the universe. So I suppose this is like more like understanding energy. Divine, this is like close to the divine. This is the divine energy here. We may go up into these at times, but it's very rare. Normally, all this energy between these two highest chakras here feed through the universal chakra, which is the link to the spirit star chakra, which is the ether, the soul star chakra, which is the higher self. This is like the higher consciousness chakra, but these two normally feed into this chakra, and then this chakra feeds through down into the crown chakra. So I hope all that makes sense, because this is what this Lionsgate portal is all about. All Lionsgate portals, this is what it's about. It's about the portal opening and coming through the divine gateway, through the galactic, into the universal, and all the way down into our crown. And then, our heart. So it's more from here, because it is all about the heart with Leo. You know what I mean? Leo rules the heart chakra. So it's all an activation. So let's get back to the chart. So the sun at 17 degrees. Now 17 is a spiritual number, but it also represents immortality. And it's funny, because when we're going through the dark night of the soul, the immortality, like the fear of death, or coming into that kind of maturity, because I find a lot of people tend to go through their Kundalini experiences around their first Saturn return. I feel that's quite a common time, because that's when we're coming into our maturity. So not only are we changing physically, we're also changing mentally and emotionally, which feeds into the spiritual. So spiritually we're evolving as well. And, so that makes sense as well, that the sun's at 17 degrees Cancer in this time and age that we're in. So, 17 is all about our principles and truth. It's about our hope and faith. It's also the number of illumination. And it helps us to understand life, science, what destiny truly means. And the influence of the number 17 is Gemini. So Gemini is the questioner. He's the one that will always try and seek knowledge. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to information, research, and it's normally more on a technical level. So when I say technical, it's the technicalities of things, whether it be in spirituality or, any field that we are destined to be develop and interesting. It's that Geminian energy that will influence us to do the research, to do the study. And this number also very intuitive, and it's all about reasoning, weighing up the pros and cons. Do you know what I mean? So that's a really good number for the Lionsgate portal to fully opening. And the sun, though, will be in square to the moon. Now, the moon is also in conjunction to Jupiter at 2 degrees between them. And then Uranus is in conjunction a little bit further away. Now, Uranus is at 23 degrees in there, so leading up to 5, this is productive and shifting energy. 16 is a really good number as well. I mean, 16 is it's all about power structures, but for good or ill. The negative side of this energy is that it can be very impulsive because it's influenced by the planet Mars. So it has like tremendous force. Do you know what I mean? But used in constructiveness, it gives like, all the energy we need to fight for our cause or to fight against wrongdoing. But in its negativity, it can be impulsive and rash. So if we're feeling kind of agitated or impulsive or anything along those lines, just know that diplomacy and strategy will work much better. And Jupiter is in trine to the goddess Pallas and Mercury, but Mercury will be in pre-shadow at this time. So again, like I said, we have to be careful of the stories we're telling, make sure we got our facts straight. And I think with Pallas conjunct, that is highly possible. But the only thing is as well, like if it's used negatively, it can be like game playing. And that's what we don't want, especially with Mars close by as well here. So it's going to be very energetic, this energy with the moon, who's the ruler of Cancer. And, like 15, I've always said like 15 is about like the abuse of power, things that haven't been done right, things that have been intentionally kind of cruel or just abusing power for greed. Jupiter is all about expansion, but he can be quite selfish and greedy at times. He can be overindulgent. So this is all about overindulgence in the sign of Aries as well. But, we have this beautiful trine here, and we have, like these are all in Leo. So 24 adds up to 5 in numerology, or breaks down, I should say. So does the goddess Pallas, is at 24 degrees, which breaks down to 5. So this is very shifting as well and productive. I just feel, as the Lionsgate is fully open, there's a lot coming in, there's a lot going on, especially probably around our media. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of the Mercury Retrograde article that I've written, that I will also link below this video here, for you to read that if you haven't already. Now, the good thing is the sun will be in sextile to the goddess Ceres and in sextile to the goddess Vesta. And the only thing with this is because Ceres, the goddess Ceres, is in quincunx aspect to Jupiter at 15 degrees in Aries, it's like we can be leading people up the garden path. Do you know what I mean? Forcing them to go into things too quickly, things that they're not ready for, that can be very damaging. So I feel that's where this corruptive energy is kind of like being judged really by the universe. Do you know what I mean? Like this is where the karmic energy comes in, with where repercussions really, it's all about repercussions by the higher forces. And so that's the only thing we need to watch out for. But on the whole, this is very nurturing or very self-empowering. So the 8-8 portal is all about concentrating on the self, preparing the self in the way to receive all this beautiful information, all this beautiful healing energy that's coming in from, our higher chakras, from the portal itself. So we really got to have them like flowing. Do you know what I mean? And also, when I kind of like saw this Jupiter was at 15 degrees, and then I was thinking about the traditional lion's golden, but the 8-8 is all about the white lion. And I thought, yeah, gold is like, a lot of people don't like the color gold because they feel it might represent greed or stuff like that. But gold is actually a beautiful healing energy when it's not corrupted, and people kind of get drawn in by bling. Do you know what I mean? So we mustn't be deceived. We mustn't let our eyes deceive us, because the message I got when I saw Jupiter at 15 degrees in Aries was fool's gold. So I really don't know where to fit that into this, but I think just bear that in mind, that the energies I'm feeling here connected to this Jupiterian energy at 15 degrees in Aries, I just feel like it's fool's gold. Is connected to that phrase, fool's gold. The Jupiter quincunx Ceres, actually, that's pretty much ongoing. That was around at the full moon, and I did a video on that recently. But another thing is that, with the moon in conjunction to Uranus, I feel like, because we're our higher consciousness, the soul star chakra is being activated here. I think that we could be rushing into like what we feel is our higher calling a bit too quickly as well, especially when it comes to, guiding and nurturing other people. So I would say that if you're dealing with your own issues, if you're doing your shadow work, or anything along those lines, and even healers and readers need to sit in their shadow at times. We all go through cycles of this energy, and especially over this year, because the Black Moon Lilith has been opposing Pluto and Saturn all throughout this year, more or less. And even here, she's opposing Pluto. So I mean, she is in separation. It is in separation, this aspect, but it's still relevant because it's a very dark energy. Like I've said before, these were husband and wife, but it was not a good marriage. It was actually very dark, very kind of what's the word I would say? Like mental cruelty. There was a lot of mental cruelty, and a lot of insecurities came from that, but so did a lot of ego between them both, really. I mean, she reacted to the way he was treating her, and he was very shut down and very kind of, he had a lot of issues, Pluto, which had been fed into him from childhood. So this is what this is all about as well. Any childhood wounds that still need healing done on them, this is the ideal time to do that. And if we're not aware whether we've still got childhood issues or not, because sometimes those childhood wounds can tend to be a little bit buried, and, we're not in recognition of them, then I would just say go into meditation and just make sure all your chakra points are clear. So definitely do a chakra alignment meditation. I think most of Steve Noble's meditations do kind of incorporate that anyway, working through the chakras so the healing energy can get to work. So again, I just feel like the 8-8 is really all about us taking time out and just working on ourselves and making sure that our chakras are all in alignment to receive the information and the healing energy that we're supposed to get during this time. So I'm going to move on to the next day. Like I said, the Lionsgate portal was open for 5 days. So this is the chart wheel for the next day, the 9th of the 8th. So the 9-8, basically. And we can see there's not really much difference in the charts, except for the quincunxes we had the day before were almost forming a yod. Now they are in a complete yod. So on this day, you know, the 9th of August, it can be quite a triggering time, you know, because of this yod, but also because of this ongoing grand cross that I didn't speak about in the last chart, but it has been ongoing for quite a while. I mean, it did turn into, I think it does turn into a T square at some point. I think at the full moon, it might have just been a T square, but now Juno has taken over this corner section here. So it has been the faster moving planets like the Sun and Venus and Mercury. They've all had a go on this corner here. But Pluto is a slow moving planet. So he's been here consistently on one side of the grand cross. And the nodes, they're long term as well. So Juno is actually a slower moving asteroid, and so she may be here for a little while. But Juno in opposition to Pluto, wow, this is kind of like a confrontation in our intimate relationships. Do you know what I mean? Or within our committed relationships. So, you know, normally Juno, sorry, does represent like marriages and marriage contracts, but also we can be married to our work, you know, or we could be married to a project. So I just feel there's some opposition there. There's some blocks that we need to get through. Maybe stuff we need to let go of that we're hanging on to. We're trying to fit it in, but it doesn't actually fit in. It's like putting a round peg into a square hole. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of energy. And I feel this is with like information as well, since Juno's 26 degrees in Gemini and Pluto is retrograding at 32 degrees in Sagittarius. So both these signs are mutable. So I really do feel it could be about information because it is a collective energy, because the nodes are involved and the outer planets are more global. So the Black Moon Lilith is here to, you know, help us to face our demons, so to speak. Get the self-forgiveness, and it is all about self-forgiveness, because when we do have that kundalini and we do enter into the soul star, when we're coming together in that twin flame energy of the masculine and the feminine, it is like mirror imaging, you know. So it's our higher self facing our soul and vice versa. You know, we're coming face to face with that mirror imaging. And remember, the soul holds all the subconscious mind, everything that we've been through, that we've like, it's that box that Pandora's box that we shove all the horrible things into. Do you know what I mean? But that box originally was a treasure box, and it still is a treasure box. But we've just like over time, just shoved all this negativity, things we haven't wanted to face or things we've been avoidant of, they all get shoved in that box on top of all the little bits of treasure that we may have put in there, like as a child or even in our teenage years. Do you know what I mean? So we do really need to dig through all that. So we need to reconcile all that negative stuff that's in that box first. And for some people, it's a lot of stuff, you know, and for others, it's like bits and pieces, but it's still intense. And, you know, we have to be strong enough to face it and reconcile it, you know, and most of all, you know, to come into true union, we have to forgive ourselves because none of us are perfect on this earth. Do you know what I mean? None of us. So, you know, this energy coming in from the Lionsgate portal, remember the white lion is all about purifying. But so is Pluto. Pluto is also a purifier, but in a nuclear way. Whereas like the white lion is more clearing in like a more gentle, loving way, if he's incorporated that Cancerian subconscious moon energy, that's spiritual, in with the masculine, the sun, Leo, that pride and ego, you know? So this is like the masculine and feminine, the sun and the moon represent the masculine and the feminine. And, it's the union and reconciling that needs to go on throughout this landscape portal. Yeah, and that's what this yod is about, with Neptune in sextile to the moon. Oh wow, Neptune is actually in sextile to the moon here. Now that's all about our dreams, our psychic energy. Oh, and wow, they're both at 5 degrees. While the moon is at 5 degrees in Taurus, Neptune is retrograde 5 degrees in Pisces. Now, Taurus isn't a sign that's easily convinced when it comes to the ethereal realms. He likes facts. He needs to see it in solid form. Because he's a material sign. He's a very physical sign. But like with psychic energy or intuition, he is very instinctive himself, but his instincts are more about the material, physical, like his security. Do you know what I mean? If he feels that's threatened, then he will react. So he's not easily convinced about, psychic energy that's in itself, and readings and all that. He will be the one to actually want the proof. And I feel this is an opportunity for him to get the proof with the moon. So this is really the subconscious mind, like filtering through the conscious mind. And so a lot of people are getting a lot of downloads, maybe psychic visions, maybe dreams. Maybe they're seeing things like a picture or, a number plate, anything along those lines where something just clicks into place and it just brings in like that intuition or that knowing. So this is definitely a shift in consciousness. And sometimes we're in the know of that, but sometimes it can be unknowingly. But this quincunx energy, it's like we can run into the past. Maybe it's taking us back into the past because Neptune is in retrograde. So maybe we're coming to terms with things from the past, or, things are clicking into place now. And, we are now mastering the whole piece. Do you know what I mean? So when we're getting information, sometimes it comes in bits and pieces. So sometimes we're getting like, I call it a jigsaw puzzle, like we get little bits in, but there's still gaps there that need to be filled, where connections need to be made. So the 33 to me represents putting together the whole. So this is the completion of the jigsaw. And you can fully see now it's complete, it's finished, and you can see the full picture. And, for some people, this can be a very triggering time emotionally, or maybe we can be over analyzing the information that's coming in because it's in Virgo and it is, the South, but the South knows is where we're comfortable. So we really do need to get into that comfortable spot to be able to analyze all that information and pull it together. This is like, for many, this time is like the final pieces of the jigsaw, where the completion, where we can see the full picture. And as long as we don't concentrate too much on detail. So this is definitely a testing time. But it is, like I said, it's all about the whole. And Ascension is all about wholeness, holiness. So we do have also, apart from this yod, Mercury is in pre-shadow in opposition to Saturn. And Saturn also, oh, actually, it's a T-square. So Mercury's in opposition to Saturn here. But forming a T-square towards the moon, wow. It is the moon, isn't it? Yeah, the moon. So, wow, this is definitely the unconscious mind sifting through to the conscious mind. But, we can be kind of very self-defensive through this, with this T-squares energy. We can also be quite suspicious of things. Do you know what I mean? Not taking things on board, which is right with the moon in Taurus. We only believe stuff if we've got the proof of it. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes we don't need solid proof. Sometimes we just see the pattern and the how can I put it? You put, everything just tallies up. Do you know what I mean? But maybe there is a final bit of proof to come in, and I feel that can come in at this time. But we need to stay open-minded and keep our minds clear as well. So we really don't want to get into that energy of over-analyzation, because this is a very fast-paced energy. A yacht is a very fast-paced energy, and it can be very triggering. So we just need to watch out for that. Positive daily affirmations will definitely be a good thing to do, because this time right now, well, not right now as I'm saying this, because we haven't reached there yet, but we're still, the Lionsgate is still open and the energy's already sifting through. So on the 9/8, we really do need to be, again, in that clear headspace. We need to be in that headspace of positive thinking. And, this is a powerful time for manifestation. So remember, what you think or what you feel becomes your reality. So it's so important, and I've said this throughout the full moon video, and I've said this in my Mercury retrograde article. We need to be in our spiritual selves. We mustn't allow the ego from the Leonian energy to filter in and trigger us at this time, because the Cancerian energy will be at work for 2.5 days. And I feel in them 2.5 days, it should all be about self-love, or working on self-love, working on unconditional love, working on our manifestations, working on positive thinking, working on our daily affirmations, yoga, tai chi, anything along those lines will be really good for our chakra to align with the galactic and for good energy to come in, whether that be for healing or whether that be for information or even both. So, on the 9/8, I feel it's going to be a little bit more of a challenging time. But let's move on to the 10/8 chart. Okay, so this is the 10th of August chart. So, this is a day before the sun moves into the sign of Leo. Now, the sun will be at 19 degrees on this day. And this is a really good number, actually. It's all about happiness and joy. So this is a much lighter day, especially now the yacht is kind of separated a bit as well. So this yacht will be brewing on the 8/8. On the 9/8, it will fully come together. And on the 10/8, it will start to separate again. And Uranus actually is a part of this now, this quincunx aspect, but that's towards the ascendant, really, in the UK. So globally, this yacht is complete. So on the 10/8, I mean, the number 19, like I said before, it's all about, our youth, our children, or, people working with them, so it's really good for that. It's all about progress and achievement. And that number 19 is actually ruled by Leo. So this is the last day where the Cancer energy, the unconscious mind, is at work. because the unconscious mind for these 2.5 days will be filtering through into our conscience, especially with that yod, with Neptune and the moon. So we're getting a lot of downloads, we're getting a lot of information, we're getting a lot of like triggering where things are clicking into place. But we need to be open-minded and stay in positivity, because like that Saturn energy that was showing up can be very depressing, very obstructive. So, the sun's coming into conjunction with Venus now as well, who's retrograde 3 degrees Leo. Now, Venus in retrograde, I've said on a few occasions, can be a little bit of a drama queen, but also it can be connecting to the past. So with Neptune, in that yod with Neptune, the moon, and the south node, I mean, but it's not just about the past in this life, it can also represent about past lives. I really do feel the Lionsgate portal is about the soul connection. Do you know what I mean? It is about the twin flame energy. So this Lionsgate portal is going to be brilliant for that. It's really going to be brilliant. So, a lot of the moon's energy is inherited energy. And, I feel like the ancestral energy is really kind of strong as well throughout this Lionsgate portal. So we can do a lot of like work or healing work on our ancestral lines. That will be really fantastic as well, especially while the sun is transiting through Cancer. So on the 10/8, like I said, then it will be at 19 degrees, and Venus, the sun will be coming into conjunction with Venus, and that conjunction will get closer and closer throughout the rest of the Lionsgate. So with the sun conjunct Venus on the whole, it's really gives emotional energy. It's quite a powerful energy, actually. It can bring in a sense of joy, but it can be a very kind of masculine energy with Venus retrograding in Leo. So there can be some narcissism going on out there. Do you know what I mean? But if we're getting into our creative or artistic work, if we're crafting through on this day, then, that can be really, really positive and constructive. So I don't feel so much meditation on this particular day. I feel we need to get active into creative art, writing, painting, even like with our spiritual work, working on the land, anything along those lines. Music, definitely sound baths, poetry, prayer, all that I feel is going to really feed into abundant energy. We can manifest abundance throughout this time, manifest like global healing. And Venus retrograde, actually, and the sun will also be in trine to Chiron. Now, Chiron represents the wounded healer. And he's here at 27 degrees, retrograde in Pisces. Now, Chiron's retrogrades a lot. So I wouldn't take that seriously, because he does represent the past childhood wounds and all that, or even like physical wounds as well, So I feel that with Venus in retrogrades, like we're learning a lot from our past relationships or our past financial systems. But again, with this energy coming in, not only do we need to let go of old wounds, it's a very healing time, but it also helps us to heal past relationships, either from this life or a past life. But it is a very difficult time, with Venus in retrograde in Leo, trine Chiron, it's still difficult. But if we surround ourselves with like harmonics, or nature, that can be very soothing. It can be very soothing. So, there's many people that need healing from past relationships. And I said that. I saw that actually in the full moon video that I did. There needs to be either reconciliations there or a moving on, a letting go. So with the sun though in trine to Chiron, like I said, it's very healing. And there's, great opportunities for us to be able to move forward as long as we can let go of the past if it does not serve us. If we're holding on to things that don't serve us, then it's like a self-punishment, really. So, yeah, this is a very shifting energy on this last day of the sun being in the sign of Cancer. I want to move on to the 11/8 because that's when the sun does enter into Leo. So the sun will enter into Leo. Where is he? Here at 0 degrees on the 11th of August at 7:45 GMT London, and that's in the UK. As the sun enters into Leo, remember the 0 is the void. This is the place of stillness. So as we leave one sign, as we leave the Cancerian healing, nurturing energy and enter into the Leo energy, really, of courage and strength and, the heart chakra, we sit in a void at 0 degrees. So this is stillness. This is kind of like the depths of the soul. Do you know what I mean? This is where all the integration takes place and the rebirthing, because each sign rebirths into the other. So all this beautiful Cancerian energy does feed into the Leo energy. And then the Leo energy, actually I should say, rebirths into the Virgo energy and so on. So as the sun rebirths into Leo, he will be closer to Venus, but at 0 degrees, I feel this is a day of stillness where we should be still. Not really meditate or do too much. Maybe get into creativity. So I feel with the fire, remember we're leaving water, we're entering into fire. So basically at 0 degrees, we're drying off. And as the sun leaves Cancer and enters into Leo, the moon will be at 28 degrees in Taurus, and the moon would have just gone over the goddess Vesta, actually, who will be at 25 degrees. Now this is like, gives us a strong intuition. This is good for women and children. It's also enlightenment, especially as the sun is now shining in Leo, and the sun is the ruler of Leo. So I feel this is an enlightening day. Do you know what I mean? Where if we've been putting the work in for those 2 days previously, then, this is a day, remember, this is the day where the energies change. And we need to incorporate that, especially since it's the Lionsgate portal, remember, and all our higher chakras are activated now. So it can be, a very transformative day. But I just feel we need to take it easy on this day. And like, this is a day, I think, where we need to come into a place of acceptance. And the reason why I say that, because we've got Chiron in opposition to the South Node. And we've also got Chiron in quincunx to Mars. So, with Chiron in quincunx to Mars, the energies will very much be up and down emotionally, as we're integrating the Leonian masculine energy with the feminine energy of Cancer. And, this is where I said, like, the union between the masculine and feminine take place on the 11th. And 11 is all about, self-mastery, whereas 33 degrees is mastery of the whole, 11 is mastery of the self. So this is now where we've got to incorporate the masculine and feminine within us and bring them into balance so they can, come into union. And, so I think this is a day of prayer. This is a day of acceptance. We can tend to be a little bit emotionally volatile on this day since the moon will be in square to Mars. And there will be a lot of emotional triggers around because the moon will also be in square to Pallas, the goddess Pallas. But it's all about how safe we feel, how secure we feel. And, there are protests and that going on out there already. So I just feel, there's going to be this energy where we're now building up the courage and the strength to actually fight for our cause. Do you know what I mean? Stand up for our rights and stuff like that. But not on this day. This is a day of acceptance, integration, and do you know what I mean? Like keeping ourselves balanced so the masculine and feminine can unite in a more harmonic way. So let's look at the 12/8 now, because that's the day the portal closes. So the Lionsgate portal on the 12/8, this is the day the Lionsgate portal closes, and it's still relevant because this is now where we've reached the end of the portal, basically. The portal closes on this day, and the build up to it has been pretty intense since the new moon in July. It's been a pretty intense time. So on this last day, the sun will be at 1 degree. Now, 1 is the number of the sun in its positive aspect. Yeah. So this is a very positive energy. So, on the 11/8, like I said, this is all about self-mastery. So leading up to the 11/8, I would say from the 8/8 to the 11/8, it's all about self-nurture, meditation, self-healing, self-empowerment, all that stuff. But now, as the Lionsgate portal closes, the integration should have took place on the 11th, okay? For some, it may still be going on in the 12th. This is where the integration reaches its peak. So with Venus in retrograde in Sextile to Ceres, it is very supportive and healing. And I do feel this one energy will give us a lot of courage and a lot of strength. And even Venus, though she's in retrograde at 2 degrees, this is like, incorporating the masculine and feminine as well, since Venus represents both the dark and the light, so it's all good here. The one energies also represents the vortex center of the universe and of the world. So this day is all about new beginnings. It's a day that's very creative and positive, and it gives us, like I said, that courage and that strength now to move forward. We do have the moon as well in trine to Saturn retrograde, which helps us to, maintain that level of common sense. And we can actually get the patience on this day, or develop the patience to know that we're dealing with long range goals and quick fixes are not going to work. And with the sun in Leo, that's very relevant that we know that and that we incorporate that into the Leonian energy. So this is now where the heart chakra begins to heal. And, but it just takes some self-discipline and some patience. But if we've been doing the work up to this point, then I feel we're going to gain a lot. It's going to be a very abundant day on the 12/8. But I also want to look at when the sun comes into conjunction to Regulus. Because when the sun comes into conjunction with Regulus, that's when we tend to all that spiritual energy that we've been building upon, etc., etc. It's really when the sun comes into conjunction with Regulus, whether we maintain that or not, and what energies are coming in. You know, sometimes we can get taken away from that energy, be distracted from it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to look at that chart. So the sun comes into exact conjunction with Regulus on the 23rd of August at 13:45 in the GMT time zone, GMT London. And look at that, the sun's at 11 degrees alongside Regulus. So again, this is about self-mastery. Are we there? You know, I mean, this is pretty common every year in the age we're in the times we're in, for the sun to be at 11 degrees. Conjunction regular. So, you know, this is a very important day as well. And as the sun comes into conjunction with Regulus, they will also be in opposition to Saturn. So wow. So with the sun conjunct Regulus, I mean, this is all about power, authority. Saturn is about power, authority, but in the material world, you know. And this is more in the self. This is all about the self, you know what I mean? Individual. Because lion, you know, the lion is individual, and it's all about the heart. You know, the heart chakra. Regulus is the heart chakra of the lion. The sun is masculine, but the rays that come off the sun is feminine. And, you know, if you look at the Greek language, with the Greeks call men Ra, and they call the females Re. So, you know, it's the sun and the rays. This is all about the self and authority. But with the self, we can be too much in our ego, but so can authority. But with Saturn in Aquarius, you know, this is all about technology and humanitarian rights and values. Do you know what I mean? And number 6 also represents that. So I do feel there's certain people, important people out there really standing up for the rights of the people. But this opposition does represent a bit of conflict there. And, you know, this is the day also where we separate the wheat from the chaff. I think you know what that saying means, you know, take the goodness and leave behind what no longer serves us or what's not edible. Do you know what I mean? And again, this day will also open up the higher chakras. So we must be humble on this day. We must humble ourselves to truly benefit from this conjunction, or else we will miss out on some amazing opportunities. You know, this is the day where we can actually connect with more sustainable, abundant energy and incorporate that into our higher chakras, which will filter through down into our lower chakras. But we also have a yod again on this day as well, with the moon in sextile to the goddess Pallas and Mercury, I think, yeah. And they will both be forming a quincunx towards Chiron. Wow. So again, this is another day, another opportunity. If we didn't get all the work done throughout the Lionsgate portal while that was open, then there's another opportunity on the 23rd of August to do that. So don't kick yourselves if you come out the Lionsgate portal and don't feel you achieved anything, because it's really going to be the 23rd where we're going to see just how far we've come. And there is an opportunity on that day as well to do the healing that we need. So it never hurts to do healing, whether we feel we need it or not. It's always good to leave ourselves open to further healing. You know, the only thing with the sun in opposition to Saturn is that we can be a little bit shut down and reserved. You know, our responsibilities can feel like a heavy burden, maybe on this day. And the burden isn't necessarily created by us as individuals, it can be imposed on us by other people, you know, or we can suffer from a lack of cooperation from other people. So we just need to be aware of that, you know. But with this moon in sextile to the goddess Pallas in this yacht formation, you know, it is an opportunity for, you know, us to develop our higher wisdom, our strategy, and, you know, get motivated through compassion, but not through ego. Do you know what I mean? So it's a day to align with our heart chakra. So I'm going to leave it there. And like I said, I'm wishing you a beautiful Lionsgate portal leading right up to the 23rd of August. And yeah, sending you all peace and much love. Take care.